Hey guys, Marsing here bringing you another Dragon Ball Z Dokkan battle video, and so I put up a poll on Twitter about how you guys wanted me to handle the guides for the new stages of Super Battle Road, and overwhelmingly the results were that you wanted the 10 separate videos rather than bunching a load of them together and putting timestamps in the description. I can kind of appreciate that, so I'm going to go ahead and record all of them probably on the same day, so I'll try and put them up in the order that the stages are listed, and then yeah, we'll go through each one of them. I'll give you my top picks as well as my honourable mentions. Okay, so representatives of Universe 7. Now this is quite a restrictive category. It's definitely not super free-to-play friendly. In the sense that there are some free-to-play options, but none of them are incredibly good for Super Battle Road. Hopefully Jay Fanta out there can prove me wrong and get this stage done with a free-to-play team. But we have a few LRs. These are all the TURs, and then most of these are just the unawakened versions of the TURs. Here's where we see a couple of the free-to-play units like the 18 and the 17, the free-to-play UI Goku. So the category is quite small. So this one probably not going to be too long. We'll go into a bit more detail with each of the characters, I guess. I could definitely see this one being a little bit harder for some people if you are a bit more restricted on the units. But first we'll go ahead and look at the leaders. So obviously the big one is the LR, Goku and Frieza. They do have the highest leader skill. I believe they currently still have the highest leader skill in the game as well, having 177% to all three stats, so that little extra 7% there, pretty sure that is still the highest lead. So obviously that is a very strong leader skill that's going to make the team much more powerful overall. You're going to have a much higher amount of HP as well, which is definitely something to consider in Super Battle Road. And then, you know, they lower attack on both supers, which again is something that in Super Battle Road is super useful. We'll be talking about that a lot in all of these guides, but lowering attack, stunning and sealing, Super Battle Road is exactly where you want to be doing those things. So basically they're just a super hard hitter. They only get 77% defense, and then they can get a whole bunch of other attack when ultra supering or when the enemy is in attack down status. They're very good links for the team. The only thing I would say about them, as somebody who for the longest time I only had them at 55%, and I honestly, when it came to at least doing like the no item runs, I didn't think they were strong enough defensively. But of course, now with some of the other units that we have floating around, and for most of you guys out there who I'm sure don't really care about not using any items, they definitely are going to be a solid option. Even if you choose to run one of the different leads, it's probably still worth bringing them. But if you're going to bring them on the team in any way, shape or form, then you absolutely should bring them as the leader, because they have by far the best leader skill. So the next leader really that you'll be considering is the Blue Kaioken Goku. So he has 3 ki, 130 to HP, and then 170 to attack and defense. So this is why I say if you have Goku and Frieza and you're going to bring them on the team anyway, you might as well make them the leader, because then you're not only getting that little bit of extra attack and defense, but you're getting a full like 47% extra HP as well. So definitely worthwhile. Kaioken Goku kind of falls under the same category as them to me though, where if you have them at 55% like I do, his defense is not that great. Now obviously every time he gets hit, he builds up his defense, so you'll notice in a single turn if he's taking a bunch of attacks, each one will do slightly less damage like each time. But it is something that you do need to be aware of. If he's taking a lot of attacks in one turn, that's definitely where you want to go ahead and use a defensive item. And then yeah, once he's built up, he can do some pretty crazy stuff. He also gets an attack boost, and his attacks effective against all types when performing a super if your HP is 59% or less once only. So that could definitely come in clutch at a certain point during the run. But then his big appeal is of course the Spirit Bomb. So it does a huge amount of damage to the enemy. Then it raises all allies' attack by 30% for one turn, and it can be activated when HP is 59% or less with another 3 reps of Universe 7, which obviously for this particular stage the whole team has to be, so that's fine. And what you can do with this is, if you can get down to being just below 59% HP and then finish off the fight, you can then go into the next fight and have the Spirit Bomb ready to use again straight away. And even if it's like, say you only have one Kaioken Goku on the team and he's off rotation, if you're going to go for that cheese strategy, I don't normally bring them into Super Battle Road, but this would be a good stage to bring a Ghost Usher. The reason I normally don't is because it's only a 1-turn item, technically, and there are a lot of items that can give you benefit for 2 turns, so I like to try and bring those mostly. But this means you could get to below 59%, use the Spirit Bomb, finish off the first fight, then go into the second fight, and if you don't have a Kaioken Goku, because you didn't bring 2, maybe you bought double Goku Frieza leads, you can use a Ghost Usher, and then when the next turn starts, you didn't need to worry about healing or anything, and then you can just fire off the Spirit Bomb again. So that can be a tactic that can work out really, really well. So yeah, he's definitely worth bringing for the Spirit Bomb potential. Even if you're not going to use the cheese, like, it's very easy to drop below 59% HP in Super Battle Road. So you probably are going to be able to see the Spirit Bomb fairly regularly. So then we have Krillin. He's like the backup leader. If you summoned on the Blue Boys banner, or if you went in on the double rates banner for Gohan, he was actually added into the pool for that banner as well. He's kind of the sub lead for Reps of Universe 7 with a 120 leader skill. Obviously not ideal, but if you don't have a better leader, then he's who you'd bring. He does supreme damage and lowers attack and has a high chance to stun. So even if you don't use him as a leader, if you do have him, he is worth bringing along, because high chance to stun is really good, 50%, as well as lowering attack. You do kind of need him to have an Android 18 on the same team, on the same turn as well, if you really want to make the most out of him. In fact, I don't think I even included any 18s in this spotlight, because obviously here we're going over the sort of like top picks. If you do bring this guy, you probably want to bring the Tech 18, or there is that free-to-play AGL one, but ideally you're going to want to bring the Tech one, and then he can be very, very good. He also has the built-in chance to dodge as well, so he kind of does a little bit of everything. I didn't pull him, so obviously I won't be going that route, but he definitely can be very useful. And then of course I thought I would mention, just for those of you out there, if you're having to rely on this guy as your leader for the 50%, you're probably going to be in a little bit of trouble. He sacrifices a little bit of HP every time he super attacks. His links aren't that great, like he doesn't have Tournament of Power, because obviously he wasn't in that part of the arc. So ideally you really don't want to be bringing this guy, but if you don't have any of the other 3, then he's going to be your only choice. You definitely then want to bring a Goku and Frieza friend, so you have the highest total leader skill overall. But I think you're definitely in a bit of a bad way if you're having to be bringing this guy as your leader. So then when we get on to the best members of the team, I think no one would be surprised that first we're going to talk about UI Goku. One of the best units for Super Battle Road. He was, super good in the Realm of Gods, no items. He is very RNG based, so, you are going to get those times where you jump into the stage, you have him on the first turn, you put him in slot 1 where there's like 5 attacks, and then he only dodges like 1 of them and you take a load of damage. Now that is obviously possible, but more often than not, you're going to have those runs where he dodges 4, maybe even all 5 of those attacks, and then he starts looking absolutely insane, because not only are you taking no damage, but every time he dodges, he gets that build up to his stats, and if you can get multiple dodges in the first turn, he can, like, straight up almost take someone out completely in that first turn. He has Disable's Guard on Super, which is kind of a lame super attack effect, but at least here in Super Battle Road, it does mean he can still do reasonable damage to AGL enemies, so I guess it's not necessarily the worst thing. And then obviously he's got a pretty godly link set as well, so if you have this guy, I mean, he is going to be one of the MVPs on the team, as long as you don't get horrible, horrible RNG. So then, of course, we have the newest addition to the team from the most recent banner. I know a lot of people won't have them, so we won't go over them in huge amounts of detail, but they are really good. They lower attack with both of their supers as well, which is really useful. Obviously, if you pick up a bunch of rainbow orbs, they can do a bunch of additional attacks, which then gives them a higher chance to trigger the additional super from their hidden potential, which will then lower the enemy's attack again. So they will be really good. They obviously link really well with the rest of the team. This team probably more so than any links incredibly well, since most of them will have Tournament of Power. So these guys definitely going to work out well on the team. I only have them at 55%, so I don't think they'll be good for the no items run, but I might try them out for the very first run that we do when the stages drop, where I don't really care about using items. So obviously if you've got dupes in these guys, then they're going to be very, very good and look very strong. And then just like the Kaioken Goku, they have an active skill that is only HP reliant and is in no way turn restricted. So again, you could go straight into a fight, have this ready to use. They do lose a bunch of their defense, but then you could activate it and then use a Ghost Usher, and then they'll just go ham and deal a ridiculous amount of damage on that turn. So they are a very good option. Then we have the Shape Up Majin Buu. So with his awakening, he went from being a pretty fodder unit to being incredibly good for Super Battle Road, because in the first 7 turns, he gets a whole bunch of extra attack and defense and a 50% chance to dodge. And obviously Super Battle Road, you're probably never going to go longer than 7 turns. So he's going to have 300% attack and defense, 3 ki. So even though he doesn't have Tournament of Power, because he didn't make it that far, he is partly self-sufficient. So you shouldn't have to worry too much about being able to super attack with him. And then he does have a medium chance to stun, which is 30%, which again, for Super Battle Road, is going to be incredibly useful. So he's a top pick for me. I'll probably include him on my team for sure. I think he'll probably be on the no items run version of the team as well. So then we have MVP 17. I don't know if people do sleep on this guy. Like, obviously he's the original Android's full category leader, but he's just so good on so many teams that you can run him on, because he lowers attack with his super as well as doing immense damage. He gets a decent attack boost. He gives all allies ki and a defensive buff of 60%, which is a lot. And then when you drop below 77% HP, which on Super Battle Road is incredibly easy, he gets 40% damage reduction as well. So when his damage reduction is active, he can actually take very reasonable amounts of damage even with no items active. So he is a top pick for this team, probably as a 3rd slot floating support unit, but still a top pick for the team, especially if you are bringing a whole bunch of LRs. Extra ki and then defense to the whole rotation is very, very good. Then we have Blue Kaioken Goku, the old school one. Technically, he's just called Super Saiyan Blue Goku, but he is probably not a top pick. He's more of an honourable mention. He can do some decent damage. He does sacrifice a little bit of your HP. One of the things that was always good about him since he first came out is just the sheer amount of links. He has like every major key link: Prepared for Battle, Over in a Flash, and Shocking Speed. He obviously doesn't have Tournament of Power, but the rest of his link set definitely makes up well for that. I don't think I'll be bringing him, but again, he is an honourable mention. He can slot into the team nicely and help people out with some of those links. And after his easy A, you know, he does reasonable damage and he has reasonable defense. He keeps his full passive for the whole time, because you're never going to go longer than 10 turns. So you're not going to get to the guaranteed crit on turn 9, most likely. But he's still pretty decent. And then the final one, we obviously don't have the new transforming one that's on JP, but we have the Golden Frieza. He does nerf superclass enemies attack by 15%, which is okay, but he does also nerf the allies as well. So if you're bringing this guy, he's probably the only extreme unit on the team, and so he is a little bit of a detriment. Like, he's debuffing the enemy's attack, which is nice, but he is also debuffing yours. He doesn't have the best defense, so honestly I feel like this guy is probably someone you bring just to fill the final slot if you didn't have enough units. So that is the top picks and honourable mentions. If you think there's anyone else we should have talked about, Blue Evolution Vegeta is okay. He's just not a super great Super Battle Road unit. He doesn't have crazy high defense or anything, but he's definitely usable. This 18 is the one that you would want to bring if you want to bring Krillin. This 17 is not very good, so even if you don't have MVP 17, I probably wouldn't recommend him unless you have to fill a spot on the team. And then obviously the OG UI Goku, if you don't have the LR, I guess he can make a reasonable replacement. He does still have, of course, the ability to, when you drop below the 50% HP, he'll transform and then has a very high chance to dodge, but very low defense as a trade-off. And then I guess the God Goku as well. So other than that, I mean, that's kind of all the TURs mentioned, apart from this Piccolo, but he's terrible, so we won't talk about him. So we haven't really missed anyone, because there's not really anyone else worth talking about. But if you do think any other units need some discussion, let us know down below in the comments section. Any further questions or any help with team building you need, feel free to ask down there as well. So that is going to be it for the video, guys. This has been the guide for representatives of 7 Super Battle Road stage. This has been the Masked Ningen. Smash that like button, subscribe to the channel if you are new. Check out the link in my description to the Discord. Feel free to join in the fun over there. And I will see you all again soon. Have a good one.